Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 36 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David Howe.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Nisley.
And we have a very special guest here today. Introduce yourself, guest.
Hey guys, it's Cody Wilson, aka Corduroy.
Yeah, what's up, Cody? How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Good. Listeners of the show might not realize, but Cody does the intro and outro music that you hear at the beginning and end, respectively, of every episode of Super Switch Headz. Thank you so much for writing that music for us.
It's
Cody.
crazy
Absolutely.
that you're here every week and you play it live for every episode.
I'm over in the corner. It's real quick.
He's really, really good at playing the exact same thing every single week.
The stage production y'all have in here is insane.
Well, I mean, it is Abbey Road Studios. So, yeah, that's where we are.
Dude.
We got a great episode for you guys today. Because Cody is a musician, we're actually going to be talking all about video game music today, and kind of some of the things that make video game music so great, some of our favorite video game soundtracks, some of our favorite composers, and kind of the best way to listen to game music. Like what's so great about it. We're going to be diving all into that today. We've got a lot of news as well. We're going to be talking about the new Mario Maker update, Alpha Dream going bankrupt, custom Joy-Con colors, some non-Nintendo news. We got an action-packed show for you guys today.
Something I wanted to say that I forgot to say last week is I got my left Joy-Con shipped back to me by Nintendo. I think
nice.
From the day I shipped it to the day I received it is roughly 10 days.
Okay.
So that's not too bad.
No.
That's pretty
And
good.
You had another pair of Joy-Cons.
I did, so it wasn't a big deal. But even if I didn't, I suppose 10 days, I hear some people worrying about weeks and weeks, but...
So here's the question. Did you get the same Joy-Cons back?
I definitely did.
Oh,
so
how could you tell?
I studied my Joy-Con before I sent it off because a lot of people have said that they've gotten new ones.
Yeah.
And I have some, I don't know, they're gray Joy-Cons. And so, they wear around the buttons from either just the mat that comes off / grease stains, whatever.
Sure, you just smelled the joystick.
Yeah, I gave it a real good smell.
Yeah, that's me.
I assume the joystick is new, but I don't know about that. But it's the same Joy-Con.
It'd be funny if they just gave you the Joy-Cons back without doing anything.
It's amazing.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, it drifts, but on purpose now.
I will say this, though, and I think it's getting better, but at first it felt really stiff, like it had the opposite problem almost.
Oh, really?
Like, I was like, I'm not able to run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not quite doing it, but I think it's getting better.
Well, when's the last time you used like a fresh Joy-Con?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, it might just be-
exactly. That's what I was kind of wondering.
Yeah.
Like, I think it might just take a minute to kind of break, or a few uses to break in.
Yeah.
I'll keep you updated.
Yeah, keep us updated, but that's great. I still need to do that.
Yeah, do it.
too.
It was super easy, super free. Yeah.
Hey,
Minus the
David,
cost of a box.
let's promise each other right now that we'll send our Joy-Cons in.
Yeah, well, let's promise each other that if by the time we're 40, neither of us has sent our Joy-Cons in, we'll send our Joy-Cons to each other. Deal?
It'll be just like the N64 where you've just got like 8 pairs of Joy-Cons
Yeah.
that all suck equally. But you're like, you swear this time around, like, oh yeah, it's the blue one.
yeah, exactly. It's like I send them in, they send me back some like Nyko controllers.
I did want to mention Krakow made a nice comment on our last YouTube video and said goose heads for life. So a reference to the fact that our Facebook group is now going under the moniker Goose Heads.
And will be for
And it can't be changed, right?
not for like another 14 days.
And I think
That's awesome.
I want to correct something I said last week. If you wanted to go to the URL directly, you have to put in Facebook/groups/Switch Headz.
Oh yeah. It's very big of you to admit when you've made a mistake.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good on you for
That's
taking
why I
ownership.
did it, because
You're a good person.
Yeah, you're a really good person, Patrick.
What a sweet man.
Gosh, you're
All right.
you're a sweetie pie.
All right, y'all.
All right, yeah.
The news. So like right after we recorded in our last episode, they announced an update for Mario Maker 2, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's the Friends update. I think a lot of people who are in the Mario Maker community are glad for this. People are ridiculous and can't wait. The people were making rants about how it's been 3 months since the game's come out, and there's no update.
I definitely understand some of those concerns. I mean, it was like something they talked about before the game came out.
But I think this is interesting.
This was the thing,
Right, because this was something that was sort of done in reaction to reaction to the game, saying that they're, you know, when they said there wasn't friend stuff, that they said they'd patch it in.
Right.
So I think maybe they kicked back their whole update plans, because they've said in this update, in addition to all the stuff about friends, which we'll talk about, that there's more updates, including new course parts coming in the future. So
Probably some gameplay tweaks, stuff like that.
so that's cool to look forward to. Like, you know, like you said when we talked about this game, one new item can just cascade in terms of what you can do.
Yeah.
But I haven't really had a chance to do anything with the Friends update. I'm excited about trying it out, but I haven't. Is anybody?
I played the night it came out. Instead of editing the podcast, I instead played online with two kids in a big coats. Chris McKeever, the head, right, from Two Kids in a Big Coat. We played some online, and it works really well. It does have that little bit of input lag that you get whenever you play Mario Maker online at all. Every once in a while, it would kind of chug, but then it was like steady for most of it. So it's not totally glitch free. Still not an ideal experience. But
Man, I would really hope that being in the same city,
the
latency would be zero, and you would. That's
maybe
too bad to hear.
Maybe he was bit torrenting a bunch of porn
I guess
or
that they're
something,
streaming at the same time.
Well, I don't know. It wasn't during a stream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so it works great. I think for me, the biggest change for this is to you play with people locally, you don't have to like download the courses to your course bot first. You can just go from Course World onto whatever course you want with multiplayer. So it's like, it just makes playing the game with multiple people locally a lot better.
It also has some cool stuff that I think I'm looking forward to take advantage of to see how it works out. But like, I want to do this with you, David. Oh, also, total aside, every time we talk about Mario Maker, I've been meaning to say this, David. You always play all my courses and leave really nice graphical comments. Oh yeah, and it really warms my heart. My courses don't get a lot of plays, but I get like a nice like from you and a nice comment from you on all of them, and thank you.
It'll always be stuff like, really great job, buddy.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, but I'll like write it
But you
out.
do it with color and stuff. It's really sweet.
I try to. I feel like most people don't leave comments, so whenever I play a friend stage, I try to draw a nice little comment.
Well, it is appreciated.
Oh well.
Okay, but back to the.
I thought you didn't give a shit because you never brought it up.
Back to what I was saying. Like, I'm excited, and I want to do this with you, David. Is like, I think because now we could play co-op, just 2-player, and I could have you test a level before I could upload it.
Yeah,
and you can give me your thoughts.
Yeah,
and I'm excited about that possibility.
We can play it
I can
from
just
your course
sit,
spot.
Yeah, and I can just sit there at the beginning and let you do a single player by yourself. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is what I understand. People have been doing that, so it's like, oh, there's better ways to test your levels now with this.
That's pretty
cool. And
cool.
also, like, I have some multiplayer levels I've been working on.
The only
I wanna
issue
test out.
is that input lag, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not going to be perfect one-to-one. You know what I mean?
Hopefully, if I just sit there, I don't know. No, it doesn't know. The net code's the net code. Okay.
But yeah, there's a couple other cool fixes in this update as well. But yeah, still waiting for like a really big update. This is like 1.1.0.
Yeah,
something like
they
that.
called it 1.1.0.
Yeah. So there's more stuff coming for sure, but it's nice that they didn't forget about this update.
So Untitled Goose Game has been, I think we talked about this a little bit, but just the sales for that game. I don't know that they've given any hard figures, but they've sort of hinted at it that it's doing incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it's still number one on the eShop.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it beat Link's Awakening for like a whole week.
Wow. There was
how much is it? It's like $10 or
it's
20.
It's 20.
It was,
yeah.
but they had it discounted on the first day for like 15. And there was somebody that did an interview with them, and they wouldn't say how many copies or how many downloads the game has had, but it's more than 100,000. And they also talked about how they want to port it now over to Xbox and the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they kind of talked about this as well in this article, just how this game has done a really good job of permeating beyond just gamers, right? Mm-hmm. Like, everybody's talking about this game.
Blink-182 is like straight up on stage being like, everybody go buy Untitled Goose Game. Like that happened. Yeah.
And like ABC and like major news outlets are talking about it and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's like super popular right now.
So good for them. And
yeah, it's still, I just checked, it's still number one on the eShop.
And there's so many good memes coming from the game.
Yes.
I saw
It's
one
got-
in the Facebook page today that had a goosette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the untitled goose
like a
grabbing the
waifu
super
version.
crown.
So ridiculous.
Yeah, just a goose with just large breasts.
So House is the developers of that game, and kudos to them. Apparently, they are going to be able to continue making video games.
Yeah, I think that's what they said. They were like, from now on, we'll just be able to make whatever we want.
Yeah.
Pretty much. They've made enough money, and the game was so cheap to make to begin with that they're like, we're just going to make whatever we want from now on.
So they are doing great. However, the developer of the Mario and Luigi RPG series, Alpha Dream, is not doing so great, and they are bankrupt. Or going to be filing for bankruptcy. I don't know how bankruptcy works in Japan. Not that I know how it works in America even really that well. But they made, I guess, all those sort of Mario and Luigi games that are the spiritual successors to Mario RPG
And Paper
/
Mario.
the early
Yeah,
Paper
yeah.
Mario games. I've never played any of these games. I understand some people really like them. I also have never heard of Alpha Dream until this news,
never heard of
really.
it, yeah.
Like so it's kind of a interesting story. Like, I guess the last game they put out, which we did talk about on this show at some point, the Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story like remake that they put out on the 3DS again at the end of the 3DS's life cycle. And from what I remember, we talked about it as like one of the worst selling Mario games ever.
Wow.
So there you go, I guess.
Yeah, I
Too
mean,
bad
it's-
that
Wait,
didn't.
did they do the original Super Mario RPG?
No,
or
that
just
was
mean in general
Square.
RPGs?
It's sort of like it's the same
Gotcha.
style
I
of
think
game.
the first one they did was Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, I think was the first game that they did. Or whatever that original version was for like the Game Boy Advance. I
Yes,
believe.
that's correct.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So they've been around for a long time doing all these games kind of like how Retro is like a second party developer. Like they develop only for Nintendo.
Right.
Alpha
Same
Dream
with
was like
Alpha,
that.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so they're not owned by Nintendo, but they don't have their own IPs. I think they're just fucked. Like there's nobody's gonna come in and buy them because they don't have any. They just have debt, I guess. And Nintendo can just keep making these games and even hire these people if they wanted
Right.
to. You know,
Right.
and like if they want to.
I mean, it's
We're good. Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
I think the main shame about this is that we just never got to see what they would have done with the Switch.
Yeah.
They really only made games up through the 3DS. And I think that they probably had a Switch game in mind, but development costs were just getting too high and they had to file for bankruptcy. We'll see. It's not like finalized, but yeah, that's
Yeah,
sad
and
news.
3DS,
Yeah, it does suck.
3DS games probably didn't meet sales expectations. So,
Yeah, they weren't really tossed a fair ball there.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. But I suppose if they do need jobs, Nintendo has posted some ads in Japan for 2D and 3D games. The EPD division of Nintendo, that sort of development studio arm of Nintendo. And there's some jobs they're hiring in Kyoto and Tokyo for what are presumed to be Mario games because they have like Mario on their Twitter posts about these job openings. So, hey, if you worked at Alpha Dream,
Or anywhere. If you just want to work at Nintendo.
and you speak Japanese, and can develop video games, there you go.
Hey, you code in English.
What do you think these games are? Everybody speculates Mario games. Obviously, we won't see them for a while, or maybe not. Maybe it's late hiring. Any thoughts?
I mean, I think they're Mario games.
I also think they're Mario games.
It's interesting to me if
That's
they really.
breaking news. Mario games are currently in development.
I'm just curious though if they really are going to do a new 2D Mario game, what it's going to be like. You know,
Yeah.
have they made a 2D Mario game since Mario Maker?
Well,
There was the app. What is
Mario Run.
Super Mario Run. Which, yeah, I mean, it could be another mobile app, but I think, yeah, I mean, I think there's always going to be a market for 2D Mario games. You know,
think there
I mean,
could
I think,
be, yeah.
I think mean, Mario Maker is great, but like, I would probably buy a full featured new
Yeah.
2D Mario game.
I would
Like,
too.
Yeah, I didn't get Deluxe U.
It's just a re-release.
Yeah, because I
Those
already
are really
played that
fun,
on
though.
Wii U.
it is fun.
Yeah.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
People really like to shit on the new Super Mario games, saying they're just all the same and don't have much life to them. But I like them.
Yeah, it'd be cool if they tried something totally different.
That would be good though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is time for it.
Yeah, at least stylistically.
So we'll get into a couple non-Nintendo news items here. So this is a big controversy that kind of broke out today, and I feel like we'd be remiss not to mention it and talk about it. Blizzard, who is a big developer of a bunch of games, including Hearthstone, which is not on the Switch. They had a big sort of esports event, a Hearthstone tournament in their sort of Asia Pacific division or whatever. And the winner of that tournament, whose last name is Chung, who goes by gamertag Blitzchung, and in the live stream that Blizzard was running afterwards, made some comments about the Hong Kong protests. It Liberate Hong Kong, Revolution of Our Age, which is like a slogan for that. Mm-hmm. And Blizzard has basically rescinded his prize money, which was not insignificant. It's a decent chunk of change.
I'm sure it's a shit ton.
I think it's like $10,000 or something. I had it up here and I'm losing it.
Yeah, it is $10,000.
And then they like banned him for a year. They fired the people who were running, like interviewing him. And so that's obviously shitty. Mm-hmm. I guess a lot, like just like the NBA, a lot of people are kowtowing to the Chinese market. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Any thoughts on any of this? Anybody?
This reminds me of when like Trump got off the phone with Turkey and like immediately like, like abandoned the Kurds. You know what I mean? I feel like China like called Blizzard and they were like, you're going to be taking that guy's money back or you're not going to be selling your games here anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it definitely stinks of like government interference, you know what I mean? Which is kind of a shame.
They have an office here in Austin. Mm-hmm. So, come on over.
So what you're saying is move the Hong Kong protests to the Austin office.
Yes.
Well, I think it's, we should mention too, apparently, and some people that work at Blizzard have been posting things that they don't agree with it. And like, apparently I don't know if this is in the Austin office, but there's like a picture of like, there is some sort of big thing at a Blizzard office that says like, think globally and every voice matters. And people are like, covering those up with paper and stuff. Wow. There's like a protest of like, that's obviously we're not living up to our slogans.
We were talking about this a little bit before we started recording as like, why would Blizzard do this? And just like briefly in 2013, Tencent, we've talked about Tencent multiple times.
Yeah, Nintendo's working with them to get into the Chinese market.
So they purchased a 5% stake in Blizzard, Activation Blizzard, for an undisclosed amount of money in 2013.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Daddy China's gotta make him happy.
Yeah. So yeah, I think
this story is still very much progressing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I feel like we haven't heard the end of this.
There's been a big backlash in the West, but I don't know if that's enough for people to, I don't know that people are going to stop playing WoW over this or whatever, and we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. We'll see. But Activision Blizzard is definitely like a huge multinational corporation. Like it's enormous all over the world. So I can see this happening. It's just kind of a shame that, the kind of freedom of speech stuff that we kind of take for granted all the time, like doesn't really apply here.
Human rights are only human rights if we enforce them, right? Like, I think that's and we're lucky to live in the U.S.
Corporations are people, and we need to think about their rights too.
There's a lot to get into there, but I just felt like we should talk about it. Anybody have any other thoughts on that? So I also want to talk about the news today that broke on PlayStation 5. It is officially called PlayStation 5.
What?
Big surprise. They didn't abandon their numbering scheme. And
PlayStation 361.
Wait, do you remember the old PlayStation 2 ad? That was like PlayStation 20 or something. Yeah, that's what the ad was. It was like a fake ad from the future. That was like PlayStation 20.
It started like with an eyeball, like it zoomed into your eye.
Something like that. I just remember seeing that and being like, what the hell?
PlayStation ads used to be fucking crazy.
That's true. I kind of forgot
like
about
that weird baby that would like crawl towards the box.
And the Crash Bandicoot, like guy in the Bandicoot suit.
Doing like jackass type stuff.
Like the early 2000s had some just fucking weird advertising.
Yeah, because all of that stuff was an advertisement for the Emotion Engine, the like part of the technology in the PS2.
Yeah. Will the Emotion Engine be in the PS5?
No, but
Zero Emotion will be in the PS5.
But they did say a couple of interesting things. Not surprising. It's launching holiday 2020. We knew Xbox Scarlet or whatever that's going to be called is coming at the same time. So obviously they're going to go for that. But what I thought was the most interesting is they kind of talked about, so like Wired had a sort of broke this story, or worked with Sony. They didn't break any story, but had the inside scoop here. The controller, like what will probably be the DualShock 5, if they continue that numbering scheme, has adaptive trigger buttons. And what that means is it's not just like analog trigger buttons. It's like, depending on the game, it can take more or less pressure to push the buttons to like simulate. And the example in the articles is like stimulate, like pulling a bow back. Like as you push it, it gets harder to push or something like that.
I can't wait for a rock squeezing simulator to come out.
And then they also are going to have haptic feedback, which is supposed to be like HD Rumble times 10, where you can like a lot of different sort of almost like textures that you can feel by holding the controller.
Like
so that's
if you're
nuts.
in the mud, you'll like feel a muddy shake, I guess.
It's hard to imagine.
It's strange.
But it seems like people that have experienced it, because there's some tech demos that people have been
That would
doing.
work well with Death Stranding, with like the baby inside the thing. You feel like a fetus rolling around.
Just maybe from
Feels just like when I was a fetus. Crazy.
It feels like I'm peeing.
to be a baby again.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, from a high level, this seems like an odd time to announce this. We all know it's PlayStation 5 and it's coming out next year, but it seems like in the middle of October.
Why today?
Yeah, why today?
Well, I think they're doling out like little bits of information like over the next year. Cause like we heard about like the SSD stuff like a couple months ago. Then we're hearing about the controller today.
Yeah, but it does kind of just feel like, we got this controller that like it's more sensitive and you feel stuff.
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah. Maybe if like you're a consumer and you're like, should I buy a Switch or should I buy a PS4 or an Xbox One this holiday season? But if you hear and read this news, you might say, maybe I'll wait till next year when there's the new.
I had this theory that they were going to launch Cyberpunk with PS5 and like have this like better version of it that was like better graphics and all.
Yeah. But it'll be a little ways out from this. Yeah, Cyberpunk is definitely a PS4 game. It's like a current gen game. Yeah, which is crazy because that game looks incredible for what it is. But I think, the big news for me here for this like Switch podcast is that like this basically shows that like Nintendo is going to remain the market leader at least for another full year. You know what I mean?
I mean, I am kind of curious.
Fiscal year.
Do you have any thoughts about like, will Nintendo try to do something around holiday 2020 to compete, or do you think they'll just ride out that? You know what I mean?
I imagine we'll see like a Switch revision.
That's what I'm wondering.
Like early 2021. I feel like around like say like March or something, 2021, that will have been 3 or 4 years since it's been out, right? And then it's like, the people that wanted to get these new systems have got them, so they're not like competing with Scarlet and PS5. But then still, it's like, hey, we're gonna give it a little bit more boost, so we can maybe port over some of these new games over here without it being too much of a fidelity drop. You know what I mean? And then, but I think Nintendo's basically just going to sit pretty for the next year. But I think we'll probably at least hear something before they come out.
I wonder if they'll try to implement some like VR type stuff.
Nintendo?
Yeah.
I imagine so, yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
And it'll be something like new and a different version of it or something.
I think they've got the taste of VR in their mouth, and like everybody else is doing it. And I think it's just something that makes sense with the tablet machine. You know what I mean? So
having VR portability like that sounds like it could be a really cool thing.
I don't think Nintendo. I agree with you, David. No new Nintendo hardware, but likely like some big software releases because Nintendo's not coming out with hardware.
Right.
To keep them on everybody's mind for holiday 2020.
Just to say, hey,
Breath of the Wild 2 maybe.
Breath of the Wild 2 would be huge. That would be fucking huge at 2020 holiday to combat that stuff. And
I
then
have a feeling it'll take a while for that game, probably.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. I've definitely got some thoughts on that. But
I'm hyped for E3 already.
Yeah. I'm always hyped for E3. But if it happens this year, we'll see. But yeah, I think that whatever next Switch we get, I think will be like fully backwards compatible. All your games will work on it. I don't think they're abandoning the Switch anytime soon. You know what I mean? But I think it'll be like the Wii U to the Wii, how you could play all your Wii stuff on a Wii U,
So, we have all this information about PlayStation's controllers. People have noticed that the website in Japan where you can order like a new Switch and customize Joy-Cons, because you can do that there. Unfortunately, you can't do that here. Has all the colors on both sides. So, a lot of people have been complaining this purple orange set that just came out, which came out just recently, actually. We didn't talk about that, but that just came out. You can get purple left and right in Japan. So we'll see if that trickles across the pond.
Sure, things trickle across pond.
Yeah.
That's a fine expression.
I've trickled across a pond a few times.
Yeah, it can happen. In my day, I've trickled across some ponds.
It's totally possible.
But it's not true in North America. If you go to the North America website, you cannot put purple on the right side.
Well, at least Joy-Cons are region free.
Yeah, so you could potentially, I guess, import this, though I think you'd have to buy a new Switch. Hopefully this means that they will release them in some way, at least somewhere, if you want to get whatever color. So that's interesting. The Reggie Fils-Aimé was given a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Video Game Hall of Fame. Did you guys know there was a Video Game Hall of Fame?
No.
It's in Canada. Wow. It's only been around for a little while. And he didn't get like inducted. I guess every year they induct like a person, a gamer, and a game. It's only been around since like 2010 or something like that. It's in Canada somewhere.
Yeah.
So did he get a trophy?
Probably.
I want to see that trophy.
Yeah, I bet it's nice.
So that's cool. He got acknowledged, and that award he got is even newer than the new. You got some info for us on?
Yeah, it's just that Ottumwa, which is where the International Video Game Hall of Fame is, considers itself the video game capital of the world, as it was the home to the Twin Galaxies arcade.
Oh, okay.
Let's make a pilgrimage, y'all.
Yeah, sure. Let's go there instead of PAX. Let's go to PAX.
Yo, I love arcades. Just let me know.
Yeah. I'm down. Well, good for you, Reggie. You didn't need an award. You already got your chair. For those that have followed Reggie Chairgate, but that's we could do a whole episode on that.
The Pokemon. So I got a comment from a friend that listens that like whenever we talk about Pokemon, we're not the most assured group of news relayers because none of us.
I'm a fucking Pokemon expert.
None of us are super following Pokemon, but I'm doing my best here. Pokemon did this webcam thing where they had like 24 hours you could see a forest for the upcoming Sword and Shield game, and apparently there was only like, if you condensed it down, only a handful of minutes of actual things coming across. And only one new thing. I don't know a lot about Pokemon, but Ponyta? Is that how you say it?
Sure.
No,
it is, yeah. It's a Galarian Ponyta.
Yeah, that's what people think it is, at least. Yeah. And also, I think we said something about how there were going to be 18 gyms. Apparently, Game Informer retracted that. That was wrong or mistranslated. Look it up.
Yeah. Well, your friend was right.
I'm excited for My Little Pony talk. I'll say that.
It looks like
a My Little Pony.
It's got a rainbow head or a rainbow mane or whatever.
The crossover everyone's been waiting for.
Yeah.
And then some bad news for Doom fans. Doom Eternal is delayed. This just came out. So Doom Eternal was supposed to come out, November?
Yeah, it was coming out in like a month.
Damn.
And it got pushed back to March, the same day as Animal Crossing.
Yeah, March 20th.
Well, and also
National Friends Day.
We should also, though you know what day that is, everybody.
Yeah.
We should also say, apparently, they also said that the Switch port is going to come even later than that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's no longer going to be
That's
day
bad.
and date. It's coming after the other versions, which is March 20th. And then also, they said that they changed it now to where if you pre-order Doom Eternal, you get Doom 64. So Doom 64 was originally just going to come out for the Switch, but now it's also coming out for Xbox and PlayStation, and it's now a pre-order bonus. But Doom 64 is now also coming out on March 20th instead of like a month from today, which is when I was expecting it. So it's that's a huge bummer. I was honestly looking more forward to playing Doom 64 on my Switch than Doom Eternal. So that's kind of a bummer. Yeah. I mean, I think you could still buy it separately, but it's because they don't want people to like pre-order the game, get a code, and then cancel their pre-orders. I think that's why they're doing this.
As is always said in these situations, a delayed game is potentially a good game. A rushed game is not, or whatever. I'm butchering that.
That's a great Miyamoto quote.
Very true, though.
You can't be fooled again.
In the end,
Fool me twice. Shame on you.
it trickled across the pond.
But the point being, good that they're delaying it. Hopefully that means less crunch. Hopefully that's good for the people working on it.
Sure.
And hopefully it makes for a better game experience.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we have a little fun note to end on before we get into our main topic. Some news outlets have been spinning this as Nintendo is declared October 2019 as the month of Luigi. Mm-hmm. But really, it's just like one Twitter account that's Super Mario UK that is doing this.
It's like an official account.
Come on, right, guys? It is an official account.
This is it.
So I think it's really funny how people...
chance.
I just like that Luigi back in 2014 had a whole year. It was the year of Luigi.
And it was Nintendo's worst year.
It was like Nintendo's worst year ever. Now they've given him a month. I can't wait until 5 years from now when we just get a Luigi Day. And then the following 5 years, they just erase him from Mario canon.
You said it was the UK Twitter account?
It's not even the Nintendo UK account. It is
just a random UK Twitter?
No, it's an official one. It's called @SuperMario_UK.
Oh.
So not even like
They
Nintendo
changed
of
their name to
Europe.
Super Luigi UK.
You know what? They saw Brexit and all the news, and they're like, we need to give a little bit of good news.
You're right. I blame Boris Johnson for this.
Yeah.
So they're tweeting out a lot about Luigi's history and stuff.
Oh, that's
It's
cute.
fun. This is a fun story.
It is fun.
I'm only saying that because I put it in the show notes.
I just think it's funny that that some news outlets are like, Nintendo calls it the month of Luigi, and I was like, let me look around and see if that's being mentioned anywhere else.
Well, Nintendo's just like, sure.
I guess
not?
so. Yeah.
You got to show Luigi some love every once in a while. God knows the man hates himself.
Oh, God.
All right.
guy.
So I think it's about time for us to take a real quick break before we get into our main topic.
All right, let's take that break. And we're back. We faked the break. Uh-oh, inside baseball. We're still recording.
Cool. So, Cody, you are here with us to talk about music and video games, video game music. So, yeah, this is a big topic. We get a lot of potential talking points. Does anybody have anything they want to just launch with? I kind of want to talk about the evolution of it first,
let's start with
maybe.
Yeah, totally.
That sounds great.
Because I think, obviously it's changed a lot over time. Early video games had maybe little intro songs, and they were limited by, the computer chip making the music. And then I kind of was reading up on it a little bit today. Space Invaders was the first game that had continuous background music.
Wow. Okay.
And I think that was 75 or something like that. I'm going to look it back up.
The
But
year of my birth.
really?
No.
That's a lie. Double
Oh my gosh.
That's when
There's
Jesus
not that many
was
wrinkles.
born.
Yeah, I forgot. Sorry, that's when Jesus.
It's his birthday.
It was actually 78. But anyway, so before that, there was maybe just beeps and boops at the beginning
there was
kind of
Pong
stuff.
with the beep.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there's that sort of fine line of what's music in a game and what's just sound effects or whatever.
Sure.
And a blurring of that kind of too. But
Well, I think a lot of it too is say on the NES, right? You only had a certain number of channels that you could assign to certain tones, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, back in the day, the way that chiptune things were created was you're literally programming in every single note by hand, right? And it's a very mathematical process, a very logical process. It's not kind of this free flowing jazz sort of thing that you can just kind of play a keyboard and see how it works out. You had to be very deliberate with how you would do stuff. And in fact, with the NES, because there was such a limited number of tones that you could do, a lot of times, bits of a song would cut out if your character's jumping. In the original Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, because everything was on one track kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, whenever you grab a star or you jump, whole bits of the song will just cut out. You know what I mean? That was something that was huge about the Famicom disc system, in Japan, that never released here, is that you could have twice as many audio tracks.
Right.
You know what I mean? But anyway, I kind of got a little ahead of myself.
no, you're
there.
fine. So we went from that, and then obviously things have evolved and changed as the technology's gotten better to now, where music, any kind of music could be video game music, right? Like,
I think the first one that allowed for sampling was the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo, you could actually use samples. So there was a lot of, real drums, like, they would sample into tracks, or like even in Star Fox, the original Star Fox, you can hear the guy going, "Good luck."
Yeah.
You know
just
what I mean?
compressed down to those little, 16
Oh, yeah, to nothing.
Yeah,
And so that's where we kind of started first seeing sampling, and then pretty much every console since then has had full sampling capabilities, and, especially with like disc-based game systems, you're going to be able to put whatever kind of music you want on there.
Cool. So I think I have this in an order. I want to jump over to something else. I think I wanted to talk about what's unique about video game music? Like, as a lot of gamers just love video game music, and I think all of us included, right? That's why we're talking about it. Mm-hmm. But like, what makes video game music special? Is it, and it kind of goes back to that history too, like that limited tool set made some really great music, or like people made really great music. But does anyone have any thoughts about what's different about music in video games, or what can it do differently?
Well, it's adaptive, I guess, like what's happening in the game you're playing and the decisions that you're making ultimately dictate like the sounds you're hearing and the music that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
With, like a lot of newer games anyways.
Well, I think it's even true in that example I gave of Space Invaders. Like it sped that they had like a 4-note track.
Right.
That sped up as the game got faster.
Funny story about that. Do you know why the game sped up as it went on?
To make it harder?
No, in fact, everybody thinks that, but that's actually a byproduct.
Memory.
It was limited memory. So when there's a shit ton of enemies on screen, it could only load the game so fast, so it was really slow. And then as you killed off more enemies, there was less to load, so the game was able to play faster. So that's how that whole kind of difficulty thing went. And then the music was tied to that as well. So it's all kind of like, it's not a bug, it's a feature sort of thing. You know what I mean? But
That's interesting.
That's a little aside, but that's an interesting note about it.
Yeah.
That's cool, yeah.
But your point is awesome, right? Like, I think that like what you're doing affects the music you're hearing potentially in a lot of games. Like, just like that, the tempo or the pace of things can change as it gets more intense. That's very common in games.
Yeah, and it started as just like a much more primitive thing where it was just like little sound effects that like triggered these things you're feeling, like the game over sound or whatever.
right.
And then, like the completion sound.
You can get an emotion tied to it for that reason.
And now it's just like gotten so insane.
Yeah. It's funny how much we totally take that kind of stuff for granted, like little tones that tell you when you've done something right, or like a little jingle that plays when you've completed something. Like, for instance, I might have brought this up on the show before, but I bought like a Sudoku game on my Switch, which is Sudoku, so it's fine, but like it's very cheap and it's missing a lot of stuff. Like, for instance, like when you complete a puzzle, like as soon as you put in the last number, like immediately as you put in the last number, it just takes you back to the main menu. You know what I mean? There's no like, like you beat the level. Yeah. It's just and I'm just like,
you did it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, of course, it's fine. I know I beat it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're
missing,
you're missing that feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's my
it's
fucking
feedback,
jingle?
Right? And I think that's something that like game music does really, really well. And something that sets it apart from just like normal music is like, it can be a prize, or it can be a way to set a mood, or it can be something that informs you on what you're supposed to do next. Like, if the fucking music starts going, you're like, okay, there's a boss coming up. I better watch my ass. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of something special. That's kind of, not necessarily unique to this medium, but definitely a huge part of it.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
I'm stealing this from y'all, but like, I think interesting examples of this are like in Super Mario World when you jump on Yoshi, like some drums kick in.
The coconuts.
Yeah, like the little bongo things.
Yeah. Or like, isn't this true in Untitled Goose Game? Like where, you go to a new area and the music kind of flows with you and stuff like that.
It responds to your actions.
Yeah.
Right? So that is kind of, there's a name for that in video game like music design, and that's called procedural music. You find that a lot where it's like your actions directly change whatever is happening in the game at any certain point. A good example of that also is The Binding of Isaac, Rebirth, like the new version, whenever he hired a new composer. Something that they really wanted to do was like, whenever there's a ton of enemies on screen, that's when you're getting like all the drums are in there. There's like a guitar solo going on. It's like the game is at its most layered and frenetic musically whenever there's a bunch of characters on screen, and then you clear it out and it kind of chills out a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
Or
Move
Breath
around.
of the Wild, the divine beasts, when you do those, the temples, that's what they call it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Whenever you unlock each piece of the divine beast, there's like 3. The music changes slightly, like new elements are brought in, and then by the time you're at the boss, it's like full blown.
And Terrytown, the like kind of side mission in that game,
Yeah.
like as you build that town up more and more, there's more and more to the music every time, and then by the end you finish this beautiful sonic.
Yeah, there's like
landscape.
layers to the Terrytown song. It like starts out with like maybe a simple marimba, then you add some bongos, and then you have some woodwind instruments that kind of encapsulate.
If you listen to that soundtrack, there's like 5 or 6 different variations almost for like all these different
Yeah.
because they're all procedural, like what you're saying.
Yeah,
That game too, like also it's sort of what you're talking about. The like if a Guardian comes up, you start to hear that, or you start to hear the Guardian music. It can just evoke that emotion of like panic, like oh shit, there's a Guardian coming at me or whatever. Sorry, Matt, you were gonna say something.
I was only going to say Terrytown is my favorite song in Breath of the Wild.
Oh, it's great. Yeah,
Just because there's so much depth to it and so many instruments in it. Like as you play the game and grow with the game, the music is also growing with
right.
you.
And the song is like nice and atmospheric, but then it becomes like beautifully melodic by the end of it, and that's kind of just to show like life returning to this town. It's a really great way to show that kind of thing.
I was just listening to Breath of the Wild before coming here, and
Oh, really?
I guess I didn't really notice, playing it, how much just minimal kind of like piano stuff there is. A lot of it is like just piano.
Gorgeous piano work. Like really the only other like straight piano music I can think of in a Zelda game is like the beginning of Ocarina of Time. Right?
Yeah.
But it's like, other than that, it's like, but then I feel like they took the opening like cinematic to Ocarina of Time and just made it a whole game.
Yeah. They're like, this is dope. Let's just put it throughout the whole game.
Exactly.
I think Breath of the Wild also is a great example of how, especially because of this minimalistic piano thing, that like really good video game music, sometimes you don't even notice it, but you love it at the same time, right? Like I remember that game was like winning awards for its music, and I was kind of like, I can't even think of the music, and then I look it up. I'm like, oh my god, how can I not think of this music?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because it's so intertwined with the gameplay.
And that too, game music is such like it's almost kinesthetic because you're pushing buttons and you're in, you know what I mean? So I wonder if there's a connection there too with why we can identify with game music more than other music sometimes, because it's like you're part of the process or something.
Yeah, totally.
Were you going to say something?
I was just gonna say, I mean, it'd be cool if you could just walk around your daily life and like little events that happen. That's something that people have joked around about forever. You know, since, like,
you like get in your car and it's like don't tick it, don't. I think you're right, Patrick. I think that is definitely one reason that like game music really gets stuck in your head and really like you feel an attachment to. And I think the other reason is just the inherent repetitiveness of video game music.
Truly,
that's something that is very interesting and often kind of frustrating about video game music when you're listening to it without playing the game. Like a lot of times, like pretty much most games, whenever you're listening to a soundtrack, like when you're not playing the game, it's just going to fade out because there's never really a beginning and end to a song. You know what I mean? Like video game music is often designed to be cyclical because you don't know how long you're going to be standing in a fucking town, and hear the Kakariko Village theme, for example. You know what I mean? So it's made to loop. Right. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's almost kind of like when you would fall asleep to like a DVD menu.
Yeah, totally.
It's like you just get exact quotes from the movie stuck in your head.
The PS4 menu like at least a few hours every week.
Yeah.
Like just because I'll like get distracted or something.
Yeah.
But it's so pretty that I kind of don't care, and like you can change that, like you can change your background there obviously and have a different song or whatever. But
quick shout out to OS music, like operating system music, like all the PlayStations have had really great OS music. Best OS music of all time though has got to be the Wii, right? Like the Wii like main menu theme and like all the little like channel themes.
Have y'all
like,
heard God, what's his name? This guy made a theoretical Wii Sports soundtrack. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah,
it's really so good.
Yeah,
me and my coworkers listen to it like once a week at least. It's so funny. So I forget his name, but
my friends. It's one of my friends here in Austin. It's like he went to school with that guy.
Really?
Yeah.
God, I can't remember his name. But basically, before every track, he's like, hey, so-and-so, like, what would it be like if you had a song for Wii snorkeling? He's like, well, I don't know. Let's think about it. And then like the track plays or whatever. And it sounds exactly like what a Wii Sports snorkeling song or whatever.
That's incredible.
Like. It's really good.
David, you jokingly posted like a Wii music playlist.
And that was not a joke.
Oh yeah, you lovingly posted.
Very serious.
But you posted the Wii Weather Channel, like a 10-hour loop of that.
Yeah.
And I was in a really intense meeting at work for like 5 hours, and I was like, "Hey y'all, we just need to relax." Put that on? Yeah, put that on, dude. They're like, "What is this?" And I was like,
Don't worry about it.
"Yeah."
This is a song by Seal.
This is a deep cut by Seal.
Yeah, I listened to that at work like pretty much the whole day.
So good. And everyone was surprised that it was Wii Weather Channel music.
Yeah.
Well, I think to your point about repetitiveness, it's like it also speaks to how good video game music is if you don't get sick of it, if it's all repetitive, right? Or how, I mean, obviously there's some songs that might drive you mad, but like,
like this obviously isn't a blanket statement.
Yeah,
you know
but
what I mean?
like,
but it's like
Some are more bearable than others for longer periods.
Yes.
For sure.
Like, I'm not a fan of like the Donkey Kong song, which is just dunk 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 for however long you're playing that level.
So we also talked about maybe coming in with some of our favorite music. Do you want to do that now? It's from video games?
I think it'd be a good idea for us to at least like each
Y'all are going to be here forever.
Well, yeah, right.
I've got it. I've got quite a few.
I was going to try to really limit it, but yeah.
I think we should probably do like one track each that we showcase, because kind of something I want to do with this episode is like, as we're talking about some of our favorite music, we can play these in the episode. So maybe we come out with like a track that really speaks to us, and then we talk about some of our other favorite video game music while that's going on.
Cool.
Well, the track that I wanted to say that speaks to me, that like I re-listened to it in anticipation of this episode, is the Final Fantasy 2 or 4, now known as 4, Prelude song, like the song that would play. It's called Prelude. That would play on the menu when you first fire up that game. Sure. I think probably that game, just the time of my life. I don't remember how old I was, 12 or something. I don't remember exactly. Maybe younger than that. But like that game is the first game I just played a shit ton of over and over and beat it many times, and came back to when I was in my 20s and would just come home late at night and just play it until 4 in the morning and stuff like that. And I think, they've said this about, like, studies have shown that music, like the music that you listen to when you were like 13 is going to be your favorite music of your whole life. And I think that's true for like video game music too.
Yeah.
So that's the one I wanted to mention, just because that's like, that song gives me the feels when I hear it for that time of my life.
Now, that's the same as the like the
yes, but that particular game variation of it.
Also, all of the Final Fantasy soundtracks are on Spotify.
Yeah. That's something I wanted to talk about at the end of this episode as well. But yeah, I think for me it was like my like moment with that song in particular is when I recently beat Final Fantasy IX. They go the whole game without playing that song. Nice. And it's like, and usually that's what like opens, Final Fantasy VII opens that way too. And it's like, and it's such a staple of the franchise. And, Final Fantasy IX has a different opening song. But then like, you like finish watching the credits, and it's this like great vocal number that's like over this very cinematic credits. And then you like go back to the main menu, and then it plays the prelude. You know what I mean? And it's this beautiful version of it that they've done. And it's like, and that gave me like so many chills. I like pretty much started crying. I was like,
it's like the end of Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner movie. Where they, They held off playing the
until the very end.
Yeah, that was really dope.
Such a great payoff. Yeah. Do you have any other soundtracks that you really enjoy?
Oh, I mean, there's lots of them. I really tried to focus on picking one thing.
Right. What kind of like jumps out at you?
I was all like the other Final Fantasy games.
Yeah. Balamb Gardens is one of my favorite.
Yeah, that's a great.
Or Balamb Garden, from Final Fantasy VIII.
So I was like more the SNES era, but like I didn't play 8. But like Legend of Zelda, the SNES one. Why am I blanking on the name? Link to the Past. the music from that game.
Yeah, kind of some of like the overworld. Like one of my favorites is at the very beginning of that game. Whenever you like first wake up and it's raining outside. It's so moody and atmospheric. Such a great start to that game.
Yeah. Super Mario World. That's the era of that's what I'm saying. Like
right.
Those are the ones that stick with you for sure.
Yeah.
More
nostalgic.
recently, I'm a big fan of like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze's soundtrack.
Yes. Wow. Yes.
And I can't think. I wish I'd looked up the name of the song, but the level where like you're on the like African-looking animals poles.
Yeah, let me.
That song is fucking
Savannah Swing.
Yeah, something like that. The way that song the way that song.
It is retro.
I wonder if people there did the music for it.
It was David Wise came back to do the soundtracks. It's the same guy who did the original Donkey Kong Country soundtracks.
Whoa.
Yeah.
The way that song
He came back
interacts
for
with that
Tropical
level is phenomenal too.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Anyway, I've talked a lot about music, I feel like.
Or even Donkey Kong Country, obviously.
Yeah, the music in that too.
Classic.
That's same era of the games I was talking about.
David
That's a good
Wise
point.
is like one of the best in the whole business. And it's like, and what he was doing with I want to talk a little bit about people that really took advantage of a limited chipset, like for music. But like David Wise, like for instance, like Aquatic Ambience from Donkey Kong Country, which is like the most classic song from that game.
It's been remixed and sampled and
so many things.
So many
it's
times,
just a classic. And it's like the way that he does like the fade ins and fade outs, like he had to come up with like an algorithm in order to do that, because like the Super Nintendo isn't supposed to be able to do that kind of stuff. And he basically like just programmed the shit out of that song in order to give it this like reverberant kind of delay and all this kind of stuff. And it's mind blowing what some of these old chiptune guys were able to do with the systems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shout out to David Wise. We know he's listening.
Hey, buddy.
Somebody else want to give some
you want to go next?
Oh man, it's so hard to choose. As I was thinking about this, David, I don't know if you're going to mention Chrono Cross.
I was going to, but you can.
Well, I had my first response was Chrono Cross, Scars of Time. And when I really think about it, the song that I've listened to most is Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater.
What a thrill, with darkness and silence through the night. What a thrill, I'm searching and I'll melt into you. What a thrill.
Yeah, it's like a cinematic track. It's by
Was that in the first?
it's in the third game.
The third game?
Yeah, Cynthia Harrell
I never played that one.
is her
Yeah,
name.
me
and
either. That's my.
So
That's
she,
the one where you're in the jungle.
That's you're
Yeah,
in
it's
this
like Vietnam
jungle,
era.
and it's like this epic track that's like full of emotion and like, there's just so much emotion when she sings, but she's like saying Snake Eater, and it's like this
Like Goldfinger.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a James Bond epic spy adventure song, but also you're playing a Metal Gear Solid game where you get to hide in a fucking cardboard box.
Yeah.
And when you're hiding, it goes,
Yeah, and I've listened to that like multiple times when I was on a train from like Vancouver, or there's a Vancouver in Oregon up to Seattle. On planes, but it's like this soundtrack that'll play if I want this like ambience to feel like I'm in this place where I've never been before, but also where it feels comfortable. I don't know. It's like this pool.
totally.
So Snake Eater is like the track that I love. a lot.
What are some of your other favorite soundtracks?
Chrono Cross.
Yeah.
I've listened to so much.
Same.
Scars of Time. I've heard like 20 variations of live versions.
Yeah. I think that might be like maybe the best video game song of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Objectively.
it's my personal favorite game soundtrack. I think is Chrono Cross.
Yeah, Chrono Cross is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way that Scars of Time kind of starts off really slow and kind of invites you in with this is it like a string instrument?
Yeah, and there's like kind of some woodwind, like flute sort of stuff as well.
And then it picks up faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
So it reminds you of like Gerudo Valley from Ocarina of Time.
Right. Yeah, lots of like good guitar riffs in it
Yeah.
and stuff too.
That's a good one too.
Yeah. That song is great.
They-
Any other games?
Oh man. What also came to mind when we were talking about Nintendo was Contra. So as you like pick your guys and you start, you like flip into the game. It's like it's so good, dude.
Yeah. I'll go next. I think for me, I'm probably, let me think. If I have to pick one, I think to showcase, I would do a Pilot Wings one, and maybe just right now I'll play like a little bit of it, and then and then we're gonna fade it out. But yeah, I think my favorite Pilot Wings track is probably the Hang Glider theme. Definitely check that out. But I think the song I'd like to highlight, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy, but his name is Tim Follin. Or have you guys ever heard of this guy?
No, not by name.
He
I'm not sure.
is a fucking genius. Like basically the main thing that he did game music for was like NES and kind of that era of stuff. I think he was doing some stuff for maybe the Commodore 64 even, but he worked a lot with NES tracks. And the song I wanted to show was a song from Solstice. Which was kind of a very forgettable kind of fantasy puzzle solving sort of game
On the NES,
But,
I guess.
yeah, but it has this like incredible like prog rock, like you guys need to listen to it because it's like it'll absolutely blow your mind that this is coming from an NES. It just like the first time I heard it, it just blew my brain back to the back of my skull, and I've been listening to all his stuff ever since. One of my favorite tracks he did also was from Pictionary. They're like NES version of Pictionary, and it's just this fucking jam of a song. It's like unbelievable, and it's like all these different time signatures, and it's got this crazy funk to it. And I remember the first time I ever found the song was on YouTube, and I went to the comments, and the top comment was, "Tim, it's only Pictionary." like, what are you doing? But it's true. It's like he put his entire all into everything, and he was like a huge like jazz and prog guy. You know what I mean? And also. The composer of Pilot Wings, her name is Soya Oka, and she did Pilot Wings, and she also did the original Mario Kart, and she did a lot of those kind of soundtracks from back in the day that were very like inspired by fusion jazz and like Chick Corea and stuff like that, you know. And so like her stuff, when I listen to it, it's like, man, I want to hear these soundtracks with like a full like, you know, like 8-piece like fusion jazz company, you know what I mean? Like it would just translate so perfectly, and I love that like that kind of early 90s inspiration from the prog and jazz scenes. Those kind of soundtracks I really, really enjoy.
Totally, yeah.
A couple other ones I'd want to talk about, obviously Chrono Cross, the Mario Kart 8 soundtrack. If you want to talk about jazz, like they take a lot of those Soya Oka songs and like give them a new spin with like full instruments. That's kind of like what I'm looking for in like a Sonya Oka track. And yeah, they give it like the full big band treatment. Something kind of interesting, like this, the reason that Sonic 3 never gets released on anything is because Michael Jackson ghost wrote that whole soundtrack.
That's right. Yeah.
And
Forgot
like,
about that.
yeah, it's like he's not credited. It's like kind of like a urban legend, but it's totally true. And there's all these weird rights issues because Michael Jackson like wrote all those songs essentially.
Like in some of those casino levels, it has like beat it, beats to it.
Yeah, you can like feel it. Yeah. But they were mostly originals, and it was like, and it was even some like unreleased Michael Jackson tracks you can like listen to and then be like,
I
this
totally
is
had that game.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible work on that one. I want to give a shout out to both Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2, some of the best video game music out there. And then I'd say probably my final like favorite game soundtrack has got to be Katamari Damacy.
Oh yeah.
So many just like bizarre vocal tracks in that game. And, like, it's really weird, but all of the songs are really, really catchy. Like, actually, I was taking a shower the other day, and like my girlfriend was coming over, and she like came into the house while I was still in the shower, and I was kind of embarrassed because I was just like blasting this like J-pop from fucking Katamari Damacy in the bathroom, and she was just like, "What are you listening to?" And I'm like, "I can't really explain right now. I'm in the shower." But if you have a chance, check out the Katamari Damacy soundtrack. It's an absolute classic. I think it's totally timeless. You know, it's definitely got a lot of that kind of like I said, like J-pop, like very Japanese, almost kind of maybe anime inspired stuff, but it's really unique, and there's nothing out there really like it. I bought that soundtrack on vinyl. I loved it so much. What about you, Cody? What's like your standout track and some of your favorite soundtracks?
Okay, yeah, I've got quite a few. I guess my list here, first off, is Streets of Rage 3 soundtrack.
Wow, nice.
Any song in particular?
What's that?
Any song in particular from Streets of Rage?
There's one called Fuse, F-U-Z-E, that's like, I mean, the whole thing is bonkers. It's fucking awesome.
That's the one you brought on vinyl.
Yeah, that's the one I brought that my brother got me on vinyl. Thanks, Cole. Love you.
Thanks, Cole. Shout out to
Cody
Cole.
Wilson.
But yeah, basically these two dudes did the first two as well. And then for the third one, I guess they were just told like, yeah, you know, like just do whatever. And so they like created these like generative types of music using FM synthesis to create the soundtrack.
Right.
And yeah, it's just insane. And a lot of it's like super early techno and like just out there shit. It's crazy. Like if you listen to it, I mean, yeah, you should check it out.
The Genesis sound chip was so
awesome.
smooth.
Yeah.
Like the Sonic tracks. Like you can always tell when a song is like from the Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
Because it's got that sound to
Yeah,
it.
it
It's like,
has a specific chip. I have a synthesizer called the Yamaha FB01. That's just like this little tabletop synth from that time period. That's
Right.
basically a Sega synth.
yeah.
And it's
yeah.
one of my favorites because it's got that sound.
Gorgeous,
It's
like
super cool.
really nice Sonics. And like
Yeah.
like Rystar is another great soundtrack that uses that same kind of. I think that was the same team that made Sonic as well. But yeah, they
Cool.
have that same kind of feel to it. Anyway, sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all good. Another one, and like, you know, it's a little bit of history too with some of these games and like the groundbreaking stuff they did musically was Wolverine Adamantium Rage on Super Nintendo. So it's like considered the first ever like grime soundtrack in a video game,
Oh,
but
really?
like kind of unintentionally, I guess. I don't know. It was like one of those things where like obviously no one really thought anything of it. Maybe people who played the game like the music or whatever. But then, you know, like 20 years later, however long later, someone looked back on it and was like, hold up. This soundtrack is fucking nuts.
Yeah, did
And
this just
is-
start a genre of music?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, like this, it blew up. Same with this soundtrack, Streets of Rage 3. So they both kind of like blew up, and Fact Magazine, which is like a pretty big electronic music publication, kind of dug them up. And they actually have a really cool list of the top 200 best songs of all time, like best video game songs of all time.
Yeah,
it's really good, and they update it too. It's really tight. But anyways, I'm kind of jumping all over the place.
That's
with this
all good.
stuff. But Fez.
Oh yeah, Disaster Piece.
Disaster Piece.
That's an incredible soundtrack.
Man, it's so good.
Yo, Phil
So-
Fish. Phil Fish lives here in Austin. The guy who made Fez.
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, it's a cool dude.
Yeah. I remember watching that documentary about it, but it never talked about the music or anything.
Yeah.
It was just, well, it was about like 4 different
Yeah, it's
indie
about that and like Meat
developers.
Boy
Yeah.
and-
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't talk about the soundtrack at all. And then I actually heard the soundtrack way later, and I was just blown away. It's beautiful. It's like, It's so good, and it sound like there's some like Boards of Canada influence in there if you listen to them. Kind of like crazy psychedelic synth stuff.
I'm trying to find. I know Disaster Piece recently did like a pretty high profile movie. I saw.
Yeah, he did. It Follows a few years back.
It Follows and Under the Silver Lake. He did
I haven't seen Under the Silver Lake.
That's a great movie.
But It Follows was equally, as good as Fez.
Yeah.
It was really good.
I thought Under the Silver Lake was amazing because it was also very like symphonic. And it was like him.
And that's the thing is he can do a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, Doom, Mick Gordon. So
Doom,
good.
you said.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mick Gordon, that soundtrack. It's insane. And the creative process that he used to make the score, like using modular synths, but like there's like a little documentary you can watch on YouTube about his process making that soundtrack. But it's insane. He uses like a 6-string bass or something, and then he uses Eurorack synthesizers, but in really like kind of unconventional ways.
Yeah.
And then he uses this old Russian synth called the Polvix Formanta, I think. And it's just fucking awesome. Like that lead synth and like the main theme, like super industrial. But that game, like that music in that game, like whenever you get into those crazy battles in that game and that music's just fucking pulverizing you while you're like stress killing all these demons, it's perfect. Like I've never felt more anxious, and like seriously, like by the time I was done and finally beat a thing, I was like, all right, fuck this game. Like, I gotta go chill for a bit. Like these demons are too much. I guess it's just called Ice from Super Mario Odyssey. It's when you go down into like the ice caverns. I forget which like world it's in or whatever. But there's this really cool song, and I mean all the music's great in that game. But this song is really cool because it's got this like kind of modern electro sound to it. And it reminds me a lot of this label I like a lot called CPU Records, which there's a guy from Dallas who's on that label, Cygnus. I don't know if you ever heard him. You probably really like him. Yeah, I'll send you stuff. Super good electro.
My favorite track from Mario Odyssey was like it was one of the shop variants.
Oh, really?
I forget which one it was exactly, but there's one where it's just got this really weird time signature, and I was just like, I would just sit in the shop and just go do something else and let that play in the background.
My favorite song from Odyssey is Steam Gardens.
Yeah, that's me too. I was going to say
that.
That's a good one.
That's a great soundtrack all around.
Yeah, there's really good music in that game.
Yeah, totally.
I love how Nintendo too now just has like vocal tracks and all of their games.
Yeah, so we were talking about that.
Like the new Super Smash Brothers thing.
Oh yeah,
and Fire
Emblem.
Yeah, totally.
Link's Awakening has it at the end. Yeah.
Do I have time for a few more?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Pick one more? Ooh, okay. Let's see here. Yeah, it's gonna be an important one. Oh man. It's probably the song from Skyrim,
oh hell yeah,
called From Past to Present, and it's just like, one of the many fucking amazing songs from that game.
Yeah.
And that soundtrack, I mean, that guy's been penned to do like, feature films and stuff like that.
Since Skyrim?
Yeah.
Totally
and
blew
before. I forget his name. But that soundtrack is just so good and like puts you in that world and you feel like you're, there's a reason why that game is still selling as well as it did. Like
Jeremy Soule is his name.
Jeremy Soule, yeah. There's a reason that game is still so good. I guess there's a lot of reasons, but that is definitely one of them.
Right. Have you played Skyrim in VR yet?
No.
It's incredible.
Cool.
And also
I haven't played anything VR yet.
Oh man, Skyrim in VR with the music when you're in a cave or in a new city.
And you can hear all the sound.
So it's incredible. Yeah.
Apparently, Jeremy Soule was accused of sexual misconduct.
Oh, no. Okay. Fuck that guy. I take everything back. I still love the game. The music's cool, but
Hey, you got to separate the art from the artist.
Sometimes.
I thought of one
and
song.
I want to do one more shout out.
Yeah,
yes, please.
There's a band called The Advantage. They're not around anymore, but they put out 2 albums and they're all Nintendo covers and they're amazing. And Zach Hill was the drummer of this band and he's the drummer of Death Grips and like all these other projects. Yeah, but he played in this band like back in the day and it's all these sick Nintendo covers. So
Hell yeah.
And it's called The Advantage after the NES controller called The Advantage. That was like this big block that you use with the joystick.
Yeah, I love it. I know here in Austin we've got a band called Descendants of Erdrick as well that does a lot of like they do a lot of obviously based off of Dragon Quest, but yeah, they do a lot of like RPG covers as well.
I had
like
a friend
band.
who was in a band called Phoenix Down.
Hell yeah. No shortage of cover bands. Well, man, that's a pretty exhaustive list. Something I think we should do, we should put together like a playlist on YouTube of like all these.
Yeah, totally.
That we've been
Let's
talking
put
about.
together a YouTube playlist and a Spotify playlist.
Yeah, well, for whatever is on Spotify, because that's something I wanted to get to at the end here.
Yeah.
Was that like pretty much it's hard to find a lot of game soundtracks on Spotify. You know what I mean? Like Square recently has gone in and actually like they released all the Final Fantasy soundtracks
I couldn't
on Spotify.
find Final Fantasy 4, but maybe I wasn't looking right.
A lot of
should
them are
all be
in
on
Japanese. You know what I mean?
okay,
So it's
that
hard
might
to
be on.
search for them. But they are all up there. Like every single one is up there. They also released the Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger soundtracks on Spotify.
They're perfect.
Yeah. So good. A few even Nintendo soundtracks have started popping up as well. Like I know the Super Mario 64 soundtrack is on there now. There's a few things. And I know Nintendo has also been going around doing copyright strikes on some of these songs that are on YouTube. Because YouTube has kind of been historically, at least for the past like 15 years or so, however long YouTube's been around, been like the best way to find these game soundtracks because they don't get pulled down like, you know, say a fucking Michael Jackson track would or something like that by the algorithm. So it's a little easier to just host them. But yeah, so it's like, I would really hope that there's some sort of game music streaming service that comes out soon. You know what I mean? Like something where you can like find all of these things at once, but you just run into rights issues, I guess. But I think as of now, YouTube is still the best place to find a lot of these songs.
Well, before we move on, I kind of wanted to talk about, I feel like a lot of people that aren't into video games or gaming, like, don't understand how awesome video game music is. And like, it's not appreciated. This is somewhat changing, I feel like. And that's been interesting to see that change. And like, you know, you kind of hinted at this, but like a lot of video game composers don't get a lot of recognition. Like they're not household names. It's not, it's somewhat true of movie composers and stuff too.
Definitely more so for games though.
But
yeah.
more so for games. And I think this is changing because like, you know, like we talked about in the car that one time, David, like you went to see the Zelda orchestra, like they have touring, there's touring orchestras and like even like the Austin Symphony sometimes here in town does a video game night or something like that every once in a while.
Yeah.
So I think this is changing.
There's like a Castlevania concert that was in Stockholm, I think, that hasn't really like gone around, but that's a good one. In Japan, they'll do, the band from, Splatoon. We'll do Splatoon.
Oh, right. Marie
shows where like where the hosts of
like
Splatoon will be like kind
whatever.
of hologrammed onto the stage. Like it's become a really huge thing.
Yeah, the Zelda concert, Legend of Zelda: Symphony of the Goddess. Like I've seen 6 times.
Holy cow, you've seen it 6 times?
I've just seen it the once.
And
I didn't know. I should have turned to you on that one.
Well, it's incredible because I've been able to see new additions to their tracks.
Yeah, like every time a game comes out.
Every time a game. So you have Spirit Tracks came out, and then Breath of the Wild, Skyward Sword. And then they do like specials of like Majora's Mask and Link's Awakening that are like one-offs for that season. And every time I've gone, if you haven't gone to a video game concert, or a concert that features video game music, oftentimes they have the music, the symphony band playing the music, but they also have a giant projector, playing the videos or screens from the game. So if you're having like Gerudo Valley, they're showing clips from Gerudo Valley.
Right.
So you get to like have this like multiple stimuli where you get to hear the music and it's erupting all of this emotion, but you also get to see the game that you remember as a kid or like as an adult.
It's like a nostalgia feedback.
Oh
loop.
my gosh, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And-
I straight up had tears in my eyes. Like,
oh, totally.
I mean,
Me too.
because a lot of those are like Koji Kondo tunes. I can't believe we've gone this whole time without talking about Koji Kondo.
His name.
It was like
Yeah,
that dude-
Fairy's Fountain is like probably my favorite.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
That's like Final Fantasy Prelude. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that. Like
Yeah.
I feel like those are very similar songs.
Yeah, they
in
are
their
very
simplicity.
similar.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like Koji Kondo. You know, he did Mario, he did Zelda, he did Donkey Kong, he did like all the OG tunes that you know. And that dude had never. That was his first job was Nintendo, and he still works at Nintendo. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's been doing it his whole life. And we got to give him at least one shout out in the music episode.
And then sort of another way that video game music has become more mainstream, you were kind of hinting at this too, like electronic music is so influenced by video game music, I feel like.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like
Most of the people I know who work in sound design and in video game audio, like, are all electronic musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I feel like it created genres of music, chip tunes, and then it influenced electronica. And
Yeah,
then
because that's what it is. That's what it started out as, is electronic music.
and electronica is now influencing mainstream music. A lot of pop
Totally.
songs are
And it's cool too,
electronica
like,
based.
you know what I was talking about with Streets of Rage and that Wolverine game, Adamantium Rage, all the rages. Every rage game.
Yeah, you're right.
If you had a game in the 90s that had rage, like, your career is about to blow up. So. No, but there's one other guy I forgot to mention, and that is Soichi Terada. And he did the Ape Escape soundtracks.
Yeah.
And they're amazing.
Yeah.
And he put out a record a few years back called Sounds from the Far East, and it just like blew up. It's super good. And it's like very housey and definitely has like that fun like video game vibe to it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, he blew up and put out a mix with this really popular publication called Resident Advisor. I don't know if y'all have heard of that. But if you haven't heard his stuff, like his music outside of video game stuff, you'd probably really like it.
It's so crazy. And there's like a million game soundtracks that I would want to talk about that we just like didn't have time to do. In fact,
Yeah.
I think this might be our longest episode yet. But
Yeah, we
like,
better move
but, yeah, but it's like this is basically as if we just sat down to do an episode about music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's just like so many good tracks. So it's like if this kind of stuff interests you, like there's no bottom to this well. And it's like if you got and not just like listening to the basic soundtracks, it's like, yeah, these fan covers and remixes and stuff that are often better than the original things. Like yeah, it's an incredible rabbit hole that you can find yourself losing yourself in. I think there was like one more thing I wanted to say, but I kind of forget what it was. So fuck it.
Oh, Hollow Knight. I wanted to shout out.
Hollow Knight is very
We can
good.
just start listing songs that we want. The Moon song from DuckTales.
I think it'd be easier to list bad games.
I think,
out
no,
there.
seriously though, I think that fact mix of the 200 best video game songs is a good place to go if you're like interested in hearing like the best video game songs.
Yeah.
Like up until recently, because they update it like every month. So.
Yeah,
Cool.
maybe before we transition, thank you for listening so far. If you have a favorite song that you like, smash those comments.
That's what they say.
Yeah. Smash those comments with a link, and we'll listen to it.
Yeah, I'd love to start a big conversation about that. Clearly, we could talk about this all fucking night.
Yeah.
Because there's a million amazing.
We should
songs.
definitely make a playlist though.
Yeah.
Share it.
I think that'd be a really good idea.
Well, we should move on to what we've been playing though.
All right, here's a video game song to transition us into the next segment.
I'm talking, so I'm going to go first. I've been, this past weekend, I played a little bit more Odyssey with my kid, revisiting that game after my save file got erased. I wasn't planning on that. I was trying to convince him to play something different, but it was a lot of fun to go back and have a million moons to collect, because we rushed through it. And then I have that game physically, and so I put it was in my Switch, and I play on my lunch break at work, and so I don't have all my games, and I was planning to play Xenoblade 2 this week, but I didn't have it with me, and I was like, man, what am I going to play? I don't have internet at work, because our internet doesn't work with my Switch. It's like, I'll just play some Smash, because I've been playing a lot of Smash Brothers, and so I picked back up World of Light, and I'm like 10 times better at Smash Brothers than I was when I first started
So you're
this.
just like crushing it.
Because this was my first Smash game, so I'm like, oh, this is actually fun now. I can actually beat all these. Like, nothing is a challenge anymore. So I've been playing a lot of World of Light and Smash, as well as like online and playing with my cousin and stuff on Smash Brothers. But that's what I've been playing.
Yeah. I was playing through Control a couple months ago, and I played through it this weekend and beat it.
Nice.
And it's great.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah. I talked about it a little bit before, but if you ever read like House of Leaves Like,
love House of Leaves.
Yeah, or ever bought House of Leaves and never read it, which is probably all of everyone ever. But it's kind of this, it's a sci-fi, horror, supernatural game. But there are several things that I love about it. The sound, the gameplay, superpowers, and the typefaces, which is a really weird thing to say. But as soon as you enter a new level, like think if you're playing a Metroid, and it's very like a Metroidvania, you enter to a new part of the world. It like says it in this bold typeface, and it like
in that control font
into this like very, I think it's like a sort of a serif font. But it's incredible. And also you get to fly, which is pretty tight.
Oh, you can fly in that game?
Yeah.
Hell
You
yeah.
get that mechanic like way late in the game, like the final third act. And it's so OP and you feel like a badass. And it's so fucking cool to fly around and like throw like washing machines at people.
Yeah.
It's so tight.
Yeah, that game visually is probably one of the best looking games of all time. Like that game looks so beautiful.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's my sleeper hit of the year. So
Really?
far.
Yeah. Because I know it was pretty middling. It was like kind of polarizing where people were like either they loved it or they hated it, but you loved it.
Yeah, I really liked it. If you like Metroidvania games and you own a PC, PS4, Xbox One, then pick her up.
Hell yeah. I been playing mostly this week. I played a little bit of Tetris 99, obviously. And then we just said I have to say Tetris 99
You sound
one
guilty.
episode.
You sound guilty.
Yeah, well, I mean, I play that game way too much. But I've been playing this game that came out in May, I believe. It's called Gato Roboto.
I thought that looked really cool.
Yeah, it is
That's
cool.
a Metroidvania too, right?
That is very much that is a Metroid game.
Yeah.
like
It's like
that is
black and
basically-
white, and you're a robot cat that kills stuff.
Yeah, you are a cat. That like basically the plot of the game is that this like dude's spaceship like crash lands on this planet that's had some experiments done on it, and then he's like pinned inside the spaceship and he can't get out. And the only person that can get out of his ship is this cat. And so he's like, "You've got to go find safety for me, cat." And then the cat like finds this mech suit, and then basically you're a cat inside a mech suit, which is basically just a cat inside Samus Aran's suit. You know what I mean? So anyway, it is unabashedly a Metroid game, Catroid, Meowtroid, whatever you want to call it. And it's incredible. It's like, it's all in black and white. It was made by Doinksoft, which did,
Doinksoft.
Yeah, Doinksoft, which did one game before this that I'm actually kind of blanking on right now, but it was, published by Devolver Digital, and it came out a little bit earlier this year. It was like $8, on the Switch, and I got it on sale for I think $4. There was like a recent black and white Devolver sale recently with like this Downwell and Minute.
There's a lot of other games on sale right now too, like Bastion and Transistor. Really
there's a ton
discounted.
of great games on sale right now. Definitely check out that eShop. But
I just want to say, great name for a studio, Doinksoft.
Doinksoft is a fantastic studio.
I'm into it.
But yeah, it's very minimalistic. I mean, it's unabashedly a Metroid clone.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like the suit that you're in has a gun arm, and then you can fire regular shots or you can fire missiles just like Metroid. But like where I lose track of where I am in Metroidvanias a lot and like have a very low patience and it's hard for me to do a lot of backtracking. This game is very streamlined. It's, it's not a long game. I think you could probably beat this game in like 3 hours. I haven't finished it yet. I think I'm probably about 50% of the way done, but it's like, it's a Metroidvania that is after my heart. It was like this and SteamWorld Dig 2 were like pretty much two of the Metroidvanias that I could like finish because they were basically kind of short and a little more simplistic. And so yeah, I really recommend this game. And we're talking about game soundtracks. This game has an amazing soundtrack. And I was actually very disappointed. I like went on Spotify and I was like, surely this soundtrack's on Spotify because it's so good. Nothing. And then I go on Bandcamp, nothing. They've never released the soundtrack, which is very frustrating. It's basically come down to fans to like rip the game files and like make extended loops of it in order to listen to the songs.
It's a pretty new game too, right? Did
Yeah,
it
came out this year, I think in May. And, but yeah, I think the sale has ended now. But I mean, at the same time, it's an $8 game. I got it for $4. It's definitely worth $8. I would really recommend picking this game up. I mean, it's not going to be for everybody. If you like want a longer experience or you want something that's not just Metroid, maybe don't get it. But, I love it. I love the charm, and you can run around outside of the suit as well, just as a cat. It's very nice. What about you? You been playing anything cool this week?
Well, I picked up older games on my Switch. I had no clue what I was getting into with Doom 3.
Doom 3 is good.
It's good, but it's like actually still pretty scary. I didn't even know it was going to be like a scary game. And I thought it was just like kind of, okay, well, I'm getting some jump and scare stuff. And like, what now I want to like wreck on demons like you do in the new one. And that just doesn't happen. You're like, it's more like survival Resident Evil style, which
it's like corridor shooter.
Yeah.
That was,
but it's actually pretty freaky.
It take place in Mars.
I think it does. Yeah. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like
but,
hell comes to Mars.
Yeah. It's just like, it's just scarier. It's a lot scarier. But, then I got the, Jedi Outcast,
right.
Cause that's just a classic and I still never beat that game back in the day.
Yeah.
So I'm like determined.
Yeah.
And that's been fun. Super cheap. It's like $10 or something. And then, outside of Switch, I got the new No Man's Sky update. I hadn't played it at all before, and apparently, like, it's been like
it's like a completely
improved.
And I've been playing with friends.
Another plug for play that in VR.
Yeah, I heard it's amazing in VR.
It's great.
Yeah, I heard it's insane.
Listen, I don't do drugs, but if I did, No Man's Sky is great.
Matt, I'm starting to think you do drugs.
So yeah,
I don't.
The cool thing about that game, music wise, is this group 65 Days of Static did that soundtrack.
Right,
and
that is 65 Days of Static.
And if you haven't heard them, they're really awesome. They had like 1 or 2 albums back in the day, and then I don't know, I hadn't heard of them in years, and then that came out and they were announced as the composers, and I was pretty stoked.
Kind of like post-rock.
Post-rock electronic shit.
Yeah.
And then I've been playing the new Destiny, Shadowkeep.
Right, that just came out as well, right?
Yeah, and it's super fun.
Isn't that's on Steam now, right?
I don't know. I have it on PS4.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I mostly just play it with my buddy. We've been playing a lot. It's like grinding through. And it's super fun. I haven't tried the new raid. But the raids, I don't know if y'all know about the raids.
I heard if you are the first person to beat this raid, you get a belt.
Yeah. You'll get rewards. So like everyone's streaming themselves on Twitch, like trying to, and like, I guess they don't really tell you at all how you're supposed to complete these raids. You just like are left to figure it out.
Right.
Using clues and stuff. And they're actually like pretty complex. I don't know if you've ever tried one or play the game, but it's like pretty intense. Like it could take you hours just to finish one of those things.
That's cool that game is still going strong. I know that was
it's impressive.
That was like the pitch of that game. I feel like this was like Destiny was one of the first like games as a service games.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a 10-year.
Yeah. Like they really held true to that.
Yeah, like if you buy the expansion, it's like $35 over it. But if you just buy the full game, I'm not sure how much it is, but by the time Shadowkeep has been out for a few months, like $60 for all of that content is a pretty good deal. It's basically like 4-5 games in one.
Yeah.
Well, cool. This has been a really great episode. Thanks so
thanks
much,
for having me.
Cody, for being
super fun.
on.
Yeah. Hey, I did want to say you've got a record coming out pretty soon, right?
I have a project with my buddy Ray called Tracks Rebo, and we're putting out a record. Hopefully,
that's a Star Wars reference. I have to imagine.
Yes. Max Rebo, Yeah, a lot of our shit Star Wars reference.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like if you like video game music, you'll probably like our stuff. It's very like melodic and electro sounding, and we've got a record coming out hopefully in the next 6 months.
Cool.
Trying to wrap it up, put it out somewhere. So
hell yeah.
Tracks Rebo.
Well, thanks for being on the show, and thanks, Corduroy, for doing the music for the show.
Absolutely.
Now we can thank you in person.
Yeah, we do say thanks, Corduroy, for the music.
Hey,
every
if y'all
single
ever want
episode.
like updated versions or orchestrated,
well, maybe for season 2. Our show is apparently ending its first season with the 10
y'all will have a
episodes,
budget for a full orchestra version of the song by then, right?
Yeah, we're making money hand over fist with this podcast.
Oh my God,
problem.
you're right. Town is coming out soon.
It's coming out really soon.
Is it next week?
No,
I think it's
the following week.
Yeah,
Oh my God, guys.
Fuck. It's crazy.
Well, actually, it might be next. Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Nonetheless.
But yeah. Thank you so much for doing the music for the show. We love
Absolutely.
it.
Thanks for having me.
Where can we find everybody?
You can find me on Twitter, Matthew, MATHYOU.
I'm PDYX.
You can find me at Monolith Fiji.
I'm at Corduroy, CORDUROI.
That's right. And check out Corduroy's music on Spotify. Your stuff's on Spotify.
Yeah,
right?
it's on all the stuff.
Yeah. You've got a couple really great albums on there that I really enjoy listening to.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
for sure. Good working music as well. That's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening. That was fucking fun. I love
fun.
That was fucking fun.
Honestly,
so
fun.
fucking fun.
I guess, yeah. Hey, this is we're the bad boys of Nintendo. We can say fuck on this podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think we could do a whole podcast on video game music, like its own
absolutely.
podcast. I'm sure there's actually a ton of YouTubers out there that their entire stuff is all dedicated to video game music. So if this kind of stuff interests you, look up some of those guys. Be on the lookout for that playlist we're going to be putting out of some of the songs we talked about today, and then some of our other favorite songs in general. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to the show. What are we talking about next week? Do we know?
Switch hacking.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, next week we're going to have a very cool episode on the Switch hacking and homebrew scene. Very excited about that episode. So be sure you tune in next week. Ladies and gentlemen, we love you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.